Hello everyone, and welcome to History of the Ancient World. Today we're embarking on an incredible journey, back in time, to the banks of the mighty Nile River, the cradle of one of the most fascinating civilizations in human history, ancient Egypt. For over 3,000 years this civilization flourished, leaving behind a legacy that continues to captivate and mystify us to this day. From the towering pyramids to the enigmatic Sphinx, from powerful pharaohs to intricate hieroglyphs, ancient Egypt is a story of innovation, belief, and endurance. So, how did it all begin? The story of ancient Egypt is inseparable from the Nile River. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus famously called Egypt the gift of the Nile. And he couldn't have been more accurate. In a land that was otherwise vast desert, the Nile was a lifeline. Each year, predictable floods would deposit a rich, fertile layer of black silt along its banks, creating a narrow but incredibly productive strip of agricultural land. This annual inundation, known as a ket, was the lifeblood of Egypt. It allowed the ancient Egyptians to grow abundant crops like wheat and barley, which not only fed the population, but also created a surplus. This surplus was the key. It allowed for specialization. People could become artisans, scribes, priests, and soldiers, instead of everyone needing to be a farmer. This laid the foundation for a complex society and a centralized state. The history of ancient Egypt is typically divided into several major periods. It all starts around 3100 BC with the early dynastic period. This is when Upper and Lower Egypt, two separate kingdoms along the Nile, were unified under a single ruler. Tradition tells us this legendary king was named Menes, or Nama. This unification marked the birth of the world's first nation-state and the beginning of the pharaonic age. The pharaoh was not just a king. He was considered a living god on earth, the intermediary between the gods and the people. His authority was absolute, and his role was to maintain Ma'at, the divine order of the universe, which encompassed truth, balance, and justice. Following this initial period, we enter the first great golden age, the Old Kingdom, often called the Age of the Pyramids. This is the era when the most iconic monuments of Egypt were constructed. Think of the Step Pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara, the very first of its kind, and of course the magnificent Great Pyramids of Giza. These weren't just tombs. They were massive national projects that required incredible logistical planning, architectural genius, and a huge labor force. They stand as a testament to the power of the pharaohs and the incredible organization of the Egyptian state during this time. The construction of these pyramids demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, engineering, and astronomy. After the glory of the Old Kingdom, Egypt entered a period of turmoil known as the First Intermediate Period. Central authority collapsed, and regional governors, or nomarchs, vied for power. But Egypt was resilient. Around 2040 BC, the country was reunified, ushering in the Middle Kingdom. This era is often seen as a classical age of art, literature, and culture. The pharaohs of this time were depicted more as shepherds of their people, concerned with justice and the welfare of the common person. Fortifications were built along the borders, and trade expeditions were sent to distant lands, bringing back exotic goods like cedar wood, ebony, and incense. It was a time of stability and great cultural achievement. However, this stability was shattered once again with the invasion of the Hyksos, a people from Western Asia who brought with them new military technology like the horse-drawn chariot and the composite bow. They ruled over Lower Egypt for about a century, during what is known as the Second Intermediate Period. But the Egyptian spirit of independence would not be suppressed. A series of brave Theban pharaohs launched a war of liberation, eventually driving the Hyksos out and paving the way for the most glorious chapter in Egyptian history, the New Kingdom. The New Kingdom is the age of empire. This is the Egypt of famous pharaohs like Hatshepsut, the great female pharaoh who ruled as a king, Akhenaten, the heretic king who tried to introduce a monotheistic religion centered on the sun god Aten, Tutankhamun, the boy king whose tomb was discovered almost perfectly intact, and Ramesses the Great, the ultimate warrior pharaoh who reigned for over 60 years and left his mark all over Egypt with colossal building projects. During this time, Egypt became a major international power, with an empire stretching from Nubia in the south deep into the Near East. The wealth pouring into the kingdom funded the construction of magnificent temples at Karnak and Luxor, and the elaborate hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Religion was at the very heart of Egyptian life. They had a complex pantheon of gods and goddesses who controlled the forces of nature and human destiny. Ra, the sun god, Osiris, the god of the afterlife, Isis, his devoted wife, and Horus, their son, were some of the most important deities. The Egyptians believed in a vibrant afterlife, and this belief dictated so much of what they did. The process of mummification was developed to preserve the body so that the soul, or the Ka and Ba, would have a home to return to in the next world. Tombs were filled with everything a person might need in the afterlife: food, furniture, tools, and even texts like the Book of the Dead, which was a collection of spells to help the deceased navigate the treacherous journey through the underworld and achieve eternal life. Another incredible achievement of the ancient Egyptians was their system of writing, hieroglyphs. This beautiful and complex script, made up of hundreds of pictorial signs, was used for monumental inscriptions on temples and tombs. For everyday use, they developed a simpler, cursive script called hieratic, and later demotic. For centuries, the meaning of these symbols was lost to the world. It wasn't until the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799 that scholars were finally able to crack the code. The stone had the same text inscribed in 3 scripts: hieroglyphs, demotic, and ancient Greek. This breakthrough, primarily by Jean-François Champollion, opened up the world of ancient Egypt, allowing us to read their stories, their letters, and their religious texts in their own words. But like all great civilizations, ancient Egypt eventually declined. After the reign of Ramesses the Great, a long period of slow decline began. Internal struggles, economic problems, and a series of invasions by foreign powers like the Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, and finally the Persians weakened the kingdom. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, and after his death, his general Ptolemy took control, establishing the Ptolemaic dynasty. The last ruler of this dynasty was the famous Cleopatra VII. Her death in 30 BC marked the end of pharaonic Egypt and the beginning of Roman rule. Even after its fall, the legacy of ancient Egypt endured. The Romans were fascinated by Egyptian culture, and Egyptian gods like Isis gained followers throughout the Roman Empire. Their achievements in mathematics, medicine, architecture, and astronomy laid the groundwork for future civilizations. Today, the allure of ancient Egypt is stronger than ever. Archaeologists continue to make incredible discoveries, and each new find gives us a clearer picture of this remarkable civilization. The story of the people who built the pyramids and worshipped the sun is a story of human ingenuity, spiritual depth, and the enduring quest for immortality. It's a story written in stone and sand, a gift from the Nile that continues to inspire us all. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the history of the ancient world. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more adventures into the past. Let me know in the comments which ancient civilization you'd like to explore next. Until then, stay curious.